Hello guys, welcome. Teacher Romain here for a new video about geometry. Okay, today we're going to talk about the perimeter and the area in geometry. All right, what does it mean and how do we find them? Okay, but before we begin, let's remember what we learned in the last lesson. Okay, we learned that in geometry we use shapes. All right, the shapes, they are the objects that we use when we do geometry. And in the basic shapes we have the square, the rectangle, the circle, and the triangle. All right, you guys should know these shapes now. And to describe these shapes, we use the dimensions. Okay, in the last video I explained what are the dimensions. So for most shapes we will use the length, the width, and the height. But I told you guys that for the triangle we'll use the base, and for the circle we will use the radius and the diameter. All right. So I hope you understand this vocabulary because we will need it to understand the perimeter and the area. So in the last video, I told you that in geometry, we do these kind of questions. Like if you have a football field and you want to run around the football field, then how many meters would you run, right? Alright guys, so I made a drawing of the football field here. Okay, so the football field, it looks like a rectangle. Okay, this rectangle has four sides. So we can say this is the side number 1, the side number 2, the side number 3, and the side number 4. Now, let's imagine you want to run around the football field. What would you do? Alright guys, so to make it more easy for you to understand, I put some numbers on the sides, okay? I will say that the length, remember the length is how long is the shape, okay? So here, the length is the long side. I said the length is 100 meters. So the long side of the rectangle is 100 meters. And the width, and remember you can also say the height, but here I say the width of the rectangle is 50 meters. So the smaller side of the rectangle is 50 meters. Okay, so we got the four sides. The two long sides are 100 meters, and the two small sides are 50 meters. Okay, so now let's run around the football field. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and I'm going to run until this side here. So now I run 100 meters, right? I run for one side of the rectangle, okay? So I stop here, I take a small break, I catch my breath, and then I run again this side, 50 meters, okay? So now I run the first side, 100 meters, and I run the second side, 50 meters. So the total, the full length that I ran so far is 100 plus 50 meters, right? So I ran 100 meters plus 50 meters, okay? I keep going now. I start from here again, go to this side here. I run 100 meters more, right? So now I already ran 100 meters plus 50 meters, and I run again 100 meters more, right? And now the last side, I run this side, that is 50 meters more, right? So the total distance that I run is this side 100 meters plus this side 50 meters plus this side 100 meters plus this side 50 meters. And when I did that, I'm back to the start. Okay, I went around my shape. I went around the football field, right? So the thing that I want you guys to understand from that is when you run around the football field, how much you run in total? You run 100 plus 50, 150 plus 100, 250 plus 50. The total distance is 300 meters, right? So we don't care about the numbers so much, but I want you to understand that when you go around something, you run some meters. Okay, you answer. If I ask you how much did you run, you will tell me I ran some meters. Example, 300 meters. Okay, guys? And this thing in geometry, when you run, when you walk around a shape, we call that the perimeter. Okay, the perimeter is how many meters when you go around the shape. Alright guys, this is the first thing that we will learn in this lesson, is the perimeter. How many meters when you go around something, okay? Okay guys, so every time I ask you how many meters did you run if you want to run around something, every time you will answer me, I will run some meters. Okay, the perimeter in math is always some meters or centimeters or kilometers, all right, but it's always something meters. Okay, and there is a big difference with this kind of question. Now if I ask you, okay, I want to paint my house, how much paint will I need? What is the difference now? Alright guys, so I made a nice drawing of my house. Okay, this is my house, so it has a triangle, the rooftop, and a rectangle. Okay, and here I want to paint the rectangle. So I want to choose a nice color for my house, and I like red, so I want to paint it red. Okay, so how can I do this? Alright, so to paint my house, I have a brush. You know, the brush is what we use to paint the wall, right? So let's go. Let's try to paint my house. Okay, so I'm going to try paint it. Whoops. So I'm a very bad painter. That's why I choose to become a math teacher. Okay, but let's say, okay, that's good enough. Alright. So now the question is, how much paint did I use to paint my house in red? Can you say, for example, like when you want to run around the football field, can you say, oh, I used 5 meters of paint? All right, for example, if I try to paint again, here I could say, oh, I used 10 meters of paint, right? But then I didn't paint the whole house, right? Because here I have to use the 10 meters again, and I have to use it again and again, right? Until my whole house is painted, yeah? So here, when I want to paint my house and when I want to say how much paint did I use, I cannot say I used 10 meters of paint or 4 meters of paint, because it's not the meaning of what I want to say. Okay, it doesn't mean how much paint did I use to paint the house, right? So to give the answer, we need to use something else. Okay, we cannot use the meters. So what are we going to use? So to answer this question, guys, we will use this. Okay, so that's a square of length 1 meter. Okay, so I know it looks more rectangle. I had to change it to fit the drawing, but imagine this is a square of length 1 meter. Okay, so every side is 1 meter. Okay, and this square we painted red. All right, and what we want to know how many of these squares we use to paint the house. Okay, so if we take this red square, how many can we fit into the house that we just painted? Okay, so let's try. I will take one square, put it here, another, put it here, again, I can put maybe one more. Okay, so in the width, we can fit 4 red squares, right? Now what about the length here? How many squares can I fit? Let's try this. I can fit already 1, that's 2,
and 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
and alright, 10. So in the length, we can fit 10 red squares, and in the height or the width, 4 red squares, okay? But the question is, how many squares can we fit in the whole house, right? So I will do this for you. Alright, so here I put all my squares. So now it's the time to count them. How many squares do you think I can fit into my house? So we can count them one by one. Okay, we could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, and there's 10 more here, that would be 20, and 10 more 30, and 10 more 40. Okay, there is a total of 40 squares. Okay, but in math we are very lazy. Okay, we don't want to count all the squares one by one. So there are 40 squares, that's true. But how can we find it faster without counting them one by one? How can we know that there are 40 squares here? Okay guys, so remember this small red square, I choose a dimension, the length of 1 meter, right? So 1 is not any number, okay? 1 is a very nice number, right? You know why? 1 is nice because we can divide any number by 1, right? 4 divided by 1 is 4. 10 divided by 1 is 10, right? Or in other words, we can write that 4 is 4 times 1, okay? And 10 is 10 times 1, okay? So when we see that, it's very easy to understand why in 4 meters we can fit 4 squares, right? And in 10 meters we can fit 10 squares. And now to find how many squares in total is very easy. Okay, we know there's two ways to do this. The first way, we see here there are 4 squares, okay? And how many times we put these 4 squares? These 4 squares we put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, okay? Because 10 is 10 times 1 and 4 is 4 times 1, yeah? So the answer is there are 4 squares 10 times, okay? There are 40 squares. Alright guys? So that's the first way. The second way is the same, but we start with the length. We say, okay, here I know there are 10 squares, and these 10 squares, they are 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Okay, so how many squares in total? There are 10 squares times 4. 10 times 4 is also 40 squares. Alright, so we know there are 40 squares in the rectangle. Okay guys, so when we want to know how much paint we need to paint a shape, we use this small square here. And its name, the square of length 1 meter, we call it the square meter. Okay? The square meter is a square of length 1 meter. Okay? And every time we will say how many of these square meter we can fit, we can use to paint the shape. Alright? And sometimes we also call it the meter squared. Okay? The square meter of the meter squared is the same thing. Okay, it's a square of length 1 meter. If you take 1 meter, you make it into a square. Okay, guys. So when someone asks you how much paint you need to paint your house or to paint a shape, and later in geometry, when I will ask you what is the area of something, you will use this square. Okay, the square meter or the meter squared. And the way to write it when you want to write the answer, we will write it like this: 1 meter squared. Okay, this is 1 meter squared, or 1 square meter. All right, guys. Okay, so if we look at this part again, so now we're not going to say it's 40 squares. We say it's 40 meter squares, square meters. Okay, and these 4 squares here, we say it's 4 squares because the dimension of the side is 4 meters, right? We said that 4 is 4 times 1. That's why we can fit 4 squares here. Okay, so here instead of writing 4 squares, I will write the 4 meters from the side. Okay, and here same, we say it's 10 because the 4 squares, we can fit them 10 times because 10 is 10 times 1. Okay, so again, I will write it like this, the size. Okay, 4 meters times 10 meters. Alright, so now let's look at this, and I really want you to understand what this means. Okay, this in math, this is correct, this is true. Okay, and I want you to understand why this is true. So if we look at this, we have some meters that we multiply together. Okay, we do 4 meters times 10 meters, and we say that this is 40 meters squared. Alright, so you guys should already know what you get when you square something in math, right? You already learn about the square with numbers, right? All right, so if I write this 3 squared. In Thai, I think you say San Gamnang Song, right? 3 square is 3 times 3, right? When you square something, you multiply by the same number. 3 square is 3 times 3, right? So how can we link the two things together? How can we link this 3 square and this meter squared? Where does it come from? Okay, so I want to focus on this for a minute. All right. So 4 meters times meters equals 40 meters squared. How do we understand this? Okay. So the 4 meters, I will write it in a different way. Okay. I will say that 4 meters is 4 times meters. Okay. And we will try to understand what it means. And same. 10 meters is 10 times meters. Okay. So why do I write it like this? When you guys learn about multiplication, you know that you can change the numbers, right? Like 1 times 2 and 2 times 1 is the same thing, okay? So I will change the numbers and the letters in this, okay? I will just write it like this. I will change the M and the 10 here, okay? I'll say this is now 10, this is now M, okay? I just changed the order. All right, and when I write it like this, it's more easy to understand. You guys see that here we have 4 times 10. Okay, 4 times 10 is 40, right? And here we have m times m. Okay, and remember just before I told you 3 squared is 3 times 3. So the same number multiplied by the same number is the number squared. Okay, so it's same with the letters. All right, m times m is m squared. Okay, guys, and this is why 4 meters times 10 meters is 40 meters squared. Okay, we multiply the numbers together and we multiply the letters together. This is what we call the units. Okay, I will write it down for you guys here. The units is a very important word in science and in math. The units, it helps you understand what you are talking about. Okay, about the football field, I ask you how much do you run if you run around the football field, and you will tell me you run some meters. Okay, the unit is some meters. It helps us understand what we are talking about. Okay, here we're talking about some meters. When I ask you how much paint I need to paint my house, the units will be some meters squared or some square meters. Okay, now the unit is different because we are not speaking about the same thing. All right, so when you see the unit, you can understand what kind of thing you're talking about. All right, if you see that the unit is some meters, it means you're talking about a distance. If the unit is some meter squared, then you know you're talking about an area. All right, and there are a lot of units in science and math. You already know a lot. There is the time. Okay, if I say how long is the video? The video is, I don't know, 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long. Now the unit is minutes because we are talking about a time. Okay, when you speak about the time, you can speak with seconds, minutes, hours, days, month, okay, weeks. All of these, they are units of time. Okay, you have units of temperature. Okay, the temperature, you know, there's the degrees Celsius, but there are also the degrees Fahrenheit. There are a lot of also of other degrees, and everything is related to the temperature. Okay, they are units of temperature, right? Okay, so just try to remember this word, units. You will hear it a lot in science, also in science in English. The teacher will use units a lot. In math, sometimes. Okay, the units, they're very important thing in science and math, and we use it all the time, almost all the time, to understand what we're talking about and to make a difference between like the distance, between the area, and later you will see the volume. Okay, there are a lot of things, and we use the units to make the difference between all the things. Okay, guys? So the point of this exercise is just to understand that when you want to know how much paint you need to paint a shape, and in geometry, when I will ask you what is the area of something, your answer will be some meters squared or some square meters. Okay, this is the unit of area, this is square meters. And there is a very big difference with the perimeter. Okay, the perimeter is like when you run around the football field. This is some meters. The area is some meters squared or some square meters. All right, this is going to be some two very different things. All right, guys. All right, so back to the lessons. So the question was how much paint I need to paint my house. The answer would be some meter squared or some square meters. Okay, guys. Alright, so to do the exercises in these lessons, we will need some new vocabulary. Okay, so the first thing is the perimeter. So I think in Thai this is Senorak Ru. And the circumference, okay, Senorak Wong, I think. All right. So we have two different words. We will use the perimeters for some shapes like the square, the rectangle, the triangle, what we will call the polygons. Okay, I will explain more about that in a minute. And the circumference we use only for the circle. Okay, they have a different name because the circle is a very special shape in math. Okay, everything is different for the circle. Okay. Okay, so the perimeter of the circumference, it will be how many meters if you want to walk around the shape, or if you want to walk around a circle or a rectangle, how many meters would you walk? Okay, or you can run if you want to, to run. All right. Okay, guys, and the second word that we're going to use is the area. Okay, the area. So I think in Thai is punti. So the area is if you want to paint a shape, so it doesn't matter if it's a circle, a triangle, a rectangle. If you want to paint the shape, how much paint would you need? Okay, and now the answer will be in meter squared or square meters. All right, it's different from the perimeter. The perimeter will be in meters. The area will be in meter squared. Okay, so this is the vocabulary that I will use for the rest of the lesson. Hey guys, so I'm going to stop the video now because I was just making the video, editing the video, and I realized that if I put everything in one video, it will be very long, okay? Maybe more than 1 hour. I don't want you to have to watch a video of 1 hour, so I will stop this video here, make a part 1, and then I will make the rest in other videos, okay? So there will be a part 2. So this part 1 is the introduction where I explain to you what is the perimeter, what is the area, what do they mean, why we have to use meters to speak about the perimeter, why we have to use square meters or meters squared when we talk about the area. All right, so I want you to be familiar with these words. And in the part 2, I will teach you how to find the perimeter and the area of all the basic shapes. Okay, so the squares, the rectangles, the triangles, the circles too. Okay, we will see how to find the perimeter, the area, the circumference of all these shapes, and I will make a part 3 after I teach you everything I want to teach you. In the part 3, we will do some exercises. Okay, so first easy exercises and then harder exercises. Okay, I will teach you how to find the perimeter, the area of harder shapes. Okay, but that's all for this video. So you guys remember the perimeter or the circumference, the area. Try to understand why we use the meters, why we use the meters square, the square meters. Okay, we're going to need this a lot in the next video, and I will try to make a small quiz just to make sure you guys understand what I explained in this video. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you for watching. As always, if you have any questions, you can ask me in the comments of the video, in Google Classroom, or in the feedback. I ask you to give me feedback on the video. You can also let me know if you have any questions there, and I will try to answer in the next videos. Okay, guys, stay safe, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.